Hello and welcome back to the AAT'S podcast, episode number 28, with myself, Adi of AAT'S. Now, I know everybody's wondering who this gentleman is right next to me. This is Mr. Frazer Lucas. Good afternoon, Frazer.
Good afternoon, Ali. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Doing all right. Wish it was a bit brighter for Sunday, but you know.
Hence why they call it kind of Sunday, but it's like, where is the sun most of the time?
Exactly. But as they say, them's the breaks.
That is true. So I know everybody's wondering where Aidan is right now. Don't worry, he's still a part of the team, but he's just decided to take a little bit of sabbatical for a while due to focusing on studies, focusing on other things as well. But he's always going to be a part of the team, and he will be making some cameo appearances, because hence why the two of the A's, one's Adi and one's Aidan, meaning of the part of the AAT'S podcast. But we know Frazer's going to do a phenomenal job here. We work together, hence why we knew each other, and we decided, you know what, we talk about movies even when we're not working, so you know what, let's just bring him on the show and everything and do that. So again, it's a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Yeah, pleasure to have beer as well.
Thank you. So the movie we're talking about today is what helped win Al Pacino his very first Oscar, hoo-ah, as he would always say throughout the movie. And yes, you guessed it, it was Scent of a Woman. We had this on the books for quite a few whiles because it was just one of his most outstanding acting performances ever, due to the fact that he's he plays a blind retired army officer, and it was quite interesting due to the fact that you know, you've never seen him play this type of role before, have you?
No. I mean, he's always, even before that, he was proving himself to be quite a very flexible actor. But this was just, you know, an extra level of challenge, even for someone like Pacino as well.
Indeed. I know exactly where your body is. What I'm looking for is the indication of a brain. Too much football on without a helmet, as he would always say as well. And but that's the thing about Pacino and De Niro. They are the true titans of method acting.
Yeah.
Where every time you look at them in a different movie, they look completely different. It's like, it's not Al Pacino again. It's not Robert De Niro again. It's that character that they are portraying.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is absolutely phenomenal. And but that was the great thing about seeing Pacino in this movie. It was like, when you see him for the very first time, you find out, oh, he's blind. Instantly, they did the right thing by giving him the Oscar. A lot of people would say they think he won it for the wrong movie.
Yeah, I think it's just more a case of he still deserved the Scent of a Woman. It's just that he still deserved it for the, you know, at least for the first two Godfather films as well.
Yes.
So technically speaking, he should be more a 3-time Oscar winner rather than just, you know, one time.
Yeah. Well, I think De Niro's 2-time Oscar winner. Yeah, he is actually 2 times.
Yeah, I believe it's 2. Yeah.
One for Godfather Part 2.
I believe so.
And then the other one was, I think, was for Raging Bull.
I believe it must have been Raging Bull. Surprised he never got up a Taxi Driver though.
No.
Surprised. I'm genuinely surprised by that.
You're talking to me? I'm the only one here, and the fans back there, so you must be talking to me.
I still look at, you know, clips of that, and I still wonder how did you not get the Oscar for that?
Exactly. It's like, for example, as you said it yourself, you know, with Pacino not winning the Oscar for The Godfather. I mean, he was like one of the few actors who did every single Godfather movie.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look at it, Talia Shire did all 3.
She did, yeah.
Diane Keaton did all 3.
Did all 3, yeah.
Who else was there? There was 1 or 2, but obviously you had Brando and James Caan only do Part 1.
Yeah.
And then you also had De Niro doing Part 2, and then you also had Andy Garcia who came in for Part 3.
In the third one?
I think he was probably like the best thing of Part 3.
I saw a clip of him, and he's cool as a cucumber in that film. He's got the charisma down to a T. And it's the right sort of charisma that he's, because The Godfather, I still need to watch films. I've seen the clips. I haven't seen the films entirely just yet, but even from just the clips, there's a particular type of charisma that Godfather films have about them, and Andy Garcia fills in that type of charisma very nicely.
He does. He definitely does. I mean, it's like when you see the same thing with Robert Duvall, who played their brother, their adopted brother. Sad thing is he wasn't in Part 3 because apparently he demanded just as much money as Pacino, and then they said, "Oh, we're gonna have to kill off your character." Then they actually threatened to kill off Pacino's character in the beginning of part 3, they were going to call it The Death of Michael Corleone.
They were going to call it that, yeah.
But instead, when he did Scent of a Woman, I still thought it was a great performance. I still thought, in a way, maybe Chris O'Donnell should have got Best Supporting Actor.
I was going to also say as well about Chris O'Donnell, because one of the things, I think with Scent of a Woman, it's one of those types of films where it's clearly kind of banking on a particular star's performance, where it's all kind of hinged around, for example, it's hinged around Pacino's Frank Slade. The whole thing is hinged around that brilliant performance. But I think, unfortunately, we kind of lose sight of the fact that Chris O'Donnell, he's really good in this.
Yeah, I like about him. He's like this sweet, innocent lad who just wants to, all he wants to do is make a bit of money to go home for the holidays. And he's got all those two-faced friends with him as well, quote, people he knows. And yet, when he's like over there at the school, he kind of senses over time the fact that, you know what, they're not as honest with me as I'm making them out to be. They're like, oh, we can help you with this, we can help you with that, but I can't afford this. They're like, oh, you know, it's tradition to help out the poor and everything like that, because they all come from rich families.
What I like about that as well is that it feels so real.
Yes.
Because that type of sort of classist kind of sort of attitudes of these rich boys, who are just basically going on there on daddy's money, they exist, and it feels so real. And which I think is really a testament to the actor's ability of making it feel that way. I mean, and it's funny you get to that, because I will say, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think he's one of his first sort of early big appearances in
That
films.
was, yeah.
And fun fact, I think it was he spent 5 times he auditioned for that role.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said that this was the role that finally sort of it changed his life and made his career what it became tragically. I think he took his own life, I think.
I don't know, he was ill.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately he is no longer, sadly, no with us. But even then, when he's young, he still has that particular type of charisma about him.
You want to hate it. You kind of hate his character.
You kind of hate him, like the others, but he's a bit different. He's just got that kind of like a lovable rogue sort, but he's on the bad, the bad guy's side.
Yeah.
But he has that kind of lovable rogue nature about him as well.
That is true. I mean, it's like the scenes where they're playing that prank on the principal.
On the dean, yeah.
And they put the bag full of, the balloon full of paint in there. Then when he pops it, it just falls on top of it. And then you hearing him going, F you and all that stuff, which is quite funny.
I mean, in all fairness, I mean, I know the dean was pretty angry about that, but he was just asking for it. When you're trying to pop it with your keys,
yeah.
I just couldn't help but think, you do realise this is basically just you are taking the bait here, right?
Indeed, yeah, absolutely.
I know movie has to happen, but nevertheless, it just seemed that in real life, most people would think, oh no, I'm not touching that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drive my car out of the bay.
Exactly, yeah. It's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, but understandably, movie has to get going, so fair enough.
Indeed.
But with Chris O'Donnell, I do because I empathise quite. He's really good at making me feel relating to him to somewhat, because he's like 17 in this film.
Yeah, he is.
And I could see a lot of what I felt like when I was 17. I mean, I can't believe it's almost 10 years ago when that was the case, but when you don't really know, you want to say something, but you don't know what the right thing is to say.
Yeah.
You're kind of unsure, you're a little bit awkward, but you want to do the right thing at the end of the day. And I empathise that quite a lot, and it's quite a sweet, gentle performance from O'Donnell. And it's kind of a sad thing that we don't remember him for that, and instead he's more remembered for his performances as Robin in the Joel Schumacher Batman films, and it's rather tragic.
Yeah. Funny thing is, he actually said when he was making them 2 Batman movies, he says, when I made Batman and Batman Forever, I felt like I was making a movie. But when I was making Batman and Robin, it felt like I was making a toy commercial.
Yeah, I think I may have heard about that about the particular toy commercial bit, because at the end of the day, it really was.
It was like just showcasing all these new suits that they would have, and George Clooney himself hated it himself. He actually said if people actually watched that movie, he actually gave them back the money to having seen it.
Oh my, yeah.
And then he goes, there was a funny story about him before we go into our subject. He goes, he was on the Graham Norton show, and he goes, you played Batman. He goes, no, I destroyed the franchise, and I admit to that, I destroyed it. He goes, there was a horrible thing. We had the suit that weighed like 60 pounds, and I'd lean back, and Joel Schumacher had this great voice, and he'd have this those big microphones that
megaphone.
Sorry, yeah. And he's like, okay, people, we're going for filming now. George, your parents are dead. You have nothing left to live for. So please channel that into your character. And he's leaning backwards and goes, oh, I'm Batman. And then he goes, and cut. Oh, that leans backward and everything, which is quite hilarious. Hilarious.
I mean,
but admitting the fact that, yeah, you destroyed a franchise, I'll give him props for his honesty.
I do admire Clooney for being honest about it. Some people try to bury it or just pretend it didn't happen or just being a bit awkward about it. But with him, he just, he owns up to it, thinking, yes, the whole thing was a giant mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he made a great comeback with all the Ocean's 11 movies.
He did. I saw that film not long ago, and it's cool as ice, and it's a properly good sort of heist film.
I gotta admit, Brad Pitt's character was my favourite in the whole movie. Rusty. All he does every time you see him, he's eating something, he's eating again. He's eating that, he's eating this, and everything. Or he's just having a drink. He's eating again. Like right at the end of the movie, he's eating again, which was quite funny.
And he also then gets a bit of heartburn at the end of it, just sort of a little bit of a gag at the end, which I did appreciate that bit.
That was true. That was true.
Yeah, but with O'Donnell as Charlie, I wish more people sort of recognised. No, wait a minute. Forget Robin. That you really with that.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor.
Oh, he's a great actor.
Yeah, he was really good in that. One detail was that, at least also on visual degree, is I know it's more of an 80s podcast, but this was released in 1992. But I always view the early 90s, a lot of the films, they always feel like a continuation of the 80s, of their own visual bits to it. But I was going to say, the haircuts, a lot of it scream 90s. Big time.
Definitely indeed, yeah. The kind of slip backs you would have. And
I know.
The long hair at the back, like some sort of...
The partings.
Yes, yeah, I remember the partings. That brings back nightmares and everything. So I just had to go for some sort of boff spikes or anything like that because I couldn't pull off the partings. It'd be like they performed brain surgery and it has not even healed yet. It looked like that, to tell you the truth. And I'll be completely honest. So the movie we are talking about today is Scent of a Woman, which starred Al Pacino as Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, who's a retired blind army officer due to a tragedy he sustained in the army, and he hires somebody to quote kind of need him for like looking after him while his family goes away. But they ends up taking the lad on a trip to New York City. They fly first class, and they stay at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. They take a limousine everywhere they need to go. They go to a restaurant where the burger and fries cost $24, and they do that, and then they basically do that, and then his plan is to I'll do this, I'll do that, and do this, and at the end I'm just going to take my own life. But what was interesting, he kind of shows him the fact that he got something more to live for.
Yeah,
he does. And
yeah.
It's like the scene where I like the scene where he meets him for the first time. He's like, "Come here, I want to take a closer look at you." He's like, "How's he looking?" Like in the way he said that, "How's he looking without no sight?" He goes, "How's your skin?" He goes, "My skin, sir." Oh, for God's sakes, don't call me.
Yeah, one of the best quotes is, "We've got a moron here."
Yeah. Well, he was pointing at me and saying that. And I was like, "I've got a moron." I was like, "Hey!" And when he goes, "Don't call me sir." Lieutenant. We got a moron here. Is that it? And he's like, "Lieutenant Colonel, get in here, you idiot!" Then he's like calling him. He's like, "Come here, I want to take a closer look." He goes, "How's your skin?" He goes, "My skin, sir." He goes, "Oh, fuck it. Just call me Frank. Call me Mr. Slade. Call me Colonel if you must. Just don't call me sir." And he's like, "Okay, Colonel." He's like, "Okay, Colonel."
I think he calls him Colonel most of the time. He doesn't call him Frank, he doesn't call him Slade, just calls him Colonel throughout the whole film.
Except at the end, he kind of slowly slips and calls him sir a little bit more, doesn't he?
A little bit, but yeah.
He's a bit of a tortured soul. He's fought in many wars and everything, but then because of a tragic accident, it cost him his sight. And like the scene where he's pouring the drink into the glass, and he's like, "I know exactly where your body is. What I'm looking for is the indication of a brain." And he's telling about his story. He's like, "You worked in intelligence? Yeah, in which you have none."
I love that. I did love that line. It's just, it was.
And then it's so funny how Frank is so rude to a male sometimes. but he's so polite to a female.
And yes, because every time he is, even to the woman who is arranging his cab service.
Yes.
He's incredible. Just he's
charmer.
Very charming. He's always a sweet natured to any female he talks to at all.
Yeah, it's like the scene where he goes, hello, he goes, I won't try anything unless I knew. Let me talk to her. Hello, beautiful. How are you? And everything. He's like just charming her off. He could charm her hair off, to tell you the truth. And what was also funny was the other scene where he's being a complete charmer to the girl on the plane. And then when the other good scene in that was where he's like, you want to know why is he like the way he is? He just isolates himself from everyone, and he's like, he lives by himself, kind of lives by himself in that sort of garage type of place. And like he goes out for a walk sometimes, but he's not really himself, is he? Most of the time.
No, he's sort of out of sorts. I think as well as that, I didn't say it in the film, but I get the feeling there is some level of PTSD about him as well, particularly during the dinner scene with his family. And he just completely loses it and puts his nephew into a chokehold. Which very feels like something that one of those sort of PTSD.
But he kind of brought that nephew. In all honesty, kind of brought that on himself.
He did,
being offensive to
him. He was, sort of asking for it for some sort of consequence, but it did sort of trigger him, perhaps in some ways. But nevertheless,
he just found an excuse to get out.
Exactly. To let the beast out of the cage.
Yeah, but it's true. Like I love the scene where he's like, when they're like, where are we going? He goes, Freak Show Central. Where's that? New York City. That's in New York, son. And he goes like, come here, go get this out of there. He goes when he goes back afterwards, and he's like, all right, get my suit out, get this, get that, get this, ASAP. That means right now. And then he's like going back to charming the woman on the phone and everything, which is quite slick and everything how he does that.
Yeah.
But then what also happens is when he goes, you touch me again, I'll kill you. You little SOB, I touch you, you understand? And everything like that. And then when they're on he goes, I can't go to New York City. He goes, why? He goes, he buys him a first class ticket. How funny is that? He buys him a first class ticket, and then he's like wondering, how are you paying for all this stuff? Crisp, clean dollars, American. I saved up my disability checks and everything. But still, he can talk himself out of anything.
Yeah, and also the scene where he managed to talk himself into getting a Ferrari test drive as well. It is just to let you know, the car they use is actually a Ferrari Mondial T, which is like sort of the basic at the time. It was like the basic cheapest Ferrari you could get, not the best one by any sorts of car fan standards, but still it was a Ferrari, and it was called sort of like in a weird way he's trying to go for a weekend of basically doing a bucket list or a condensed version of a bucket list.
He is. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, because he does kind of mention little hints of that bucket list, doesn't he? He's like, I'm gonna fly first class, stay at a first class hotel, eat an agreeable meal, drink a nice bottle of wine, and then he's like, see my older brother, and then make love to a terrific woman. Then after that, I'm gonna blow my brains out.
Yeah.
When he says that, and then like Charlie's like, Chris O'Donnell is like, you really gonna kill yourself? He goes, no, I said I'm gonna blow my brains out. You're not even listening to what I'm telling you. I'm right here next to you and everything. And which was quite funny. And then every few seconds when he goes, bring me a double Jack Daniels on the rocks, and he's like, Charlie's like, bring him water. Like, it's like hinting, giving him, don't do that. Don't you ever do that. Which is quite funny. Which is very funny.
I know, because there's lots of these bits about Slade's charisma about him, and it's almost infectious, and in a weird way you start to see it more and more affect Charlie as they go along, because he starts out very much a bit meek, very much sort of he tries to sort of stand up for himself in some small ways, but he's a bit sort of, he hasn't got a lot of backbone to him in some ways.
Yeah, because if you look at if you look at Charlie's background, his dad left him, his stepfather and his mum worked 24 hours, pretty much 24 hours a day. When he goes, we open at 5 a.m, they close at 1 a.m, and he's like, you get hard workers and all that stuff. I like that line. He goes, what does your father do? Runs a convenience store. How convenient. What time they open? 5 a.m, close 1 a.m. Hard workers. You got me all misty-eyed and everything like that.
Because and as well as that, it also reveals that Charlie doesn't get along well with his stepdad.
No, he doesn't.
He just doesn't really think of him that warmly in any sort of sense.
Yeah, it's true, because that's probably the reason why he worked so hard to get a scholarship at that school, isn't it? It was to get away from everything. But if you look at over time, they kind of develop like some sort of father-son relationship, don't they?
They do. Well, remember the line, the big moment when Frank's about to kill himself.
Yeah.
And after having this all big talk with Charlie, I don't know whether to kill you or adopt you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He does. He definitely says that. But he's like loading. He loads that gun up in like less than 30 seconds.
That's interesting. Fun fact: he actually had an army guy teach him, Al Pacino, how to do that in 45 seconds at least, with his eyes closed, because obviously to mimic being blind.
Yeah.
And apparently, if he did it successfully, this army guy would then do a celebratory hoo-ah, and that's what sort of brought Pacino thinking, oh, bring more of that to that hoo-ah to the
hoo-ah.
Yeah.
Every few seconds you hear him say it. Hoo-ah, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. And I can remember when the movie. Well, I remember when I watched it after so many years, and I just loved that. I don't know what that catchphrase meant, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want to know, because it just sounded so cool. Where I was working at the time, every day, I'd end up saying that word. If I made a sale, hoo-ah, and I'm talking to somebody, hoo-ah, and then people got fed up afterwards, like, what? Can you stop saying that? All right, I'll do my best, but it's kind of worked itself into my lexicon now, so I can't really say that. And it was like, they're like, out of nowhere, I would just shout, hoo-ah, stop saying that! I was like, no. No.
It's meant to be like, it's actually an official sort of army cry.
Yeah.
I think officially.
It's like, I think once you complete a mission, hoo-ah, hoo-ah.
Yeah, it's like a sort of camaraderie battle cry, as it were. Yeah, it just sort of makes it sort of this catchphrase, sort of, but brings a bit of reminds you that this is very much an army veteran and a man who's unfortunately sort of his army experience has kind of left him a bit broken.
Yeah,
and a bit sort of tortured a soul inside.
No, it's true. I mean, so if you look at it, he just wants to live his life. He feels like, I don't want to live. I've got nothing else to live for. What do I do? Do this, do that, and I'll just have a few little, like you say, have a bit of a bucket list, and then afterwards just call it a day.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of sense that in the other scene where he's walking through Times Square, and then he just falls over the trash bin. It's like he's losing the will to live.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet. Like Charlie runs up to him. He's like, "What's the matter with you, Colonel? What's the matter with you?" He goes, "I gotta take a piss." He goes, "You can't pee in. You can't go to the bathroom right here." And they're put in Times Square. And then it's like he's proper going out of his way to look out for him, isn't he?
Yes.
But then he's doing the same thing for him in return. It's like when he goes for that shave, ease the blow, let me buy you a drink. And then he's like, bring him a Shirley Temple. Do you have beer? Can I see some ID? And then the waiter goes, "Can I see some ID?" And Pacino goes, "Are you interested in walking for the rest of your life?" It's like, oh my goodness. And he's like, "Any particular beer?" "This one. If not, this one. If not, this one. If not, improvise." And everything. Just he goes, "Oh, you're human, Charlie. Beer?"
I know, it's just this little bits that they start to build a relationship. I mean, and it's quite real. I find it what's quite impressive is it is based on just a weekend.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 days tops.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've managed to build this believable relationship together. And I think what's helpful is that I think at the time critics thought it was way too long, 2.5 hours too long for this type of drama film. I somewhat disagree, because it means you're not left ever thinking, oh, they should have left this bit a bit longer so we can explore this bit.
Yeah.
It does everything it needs to do in exploring things. And as well as that, it used the extra runtime to make it sort of believable that it is over a whole weekend, and it's sort of build the relationship more and more and make it more believable. Because in reality, it would be very difficult for two people to sort of bond that quickly, that closely.
Exactly, yeah.
But because they've given it that big extra runtime, it makes it feel more believable. It makes you think, that these two really have something become like a sort of surrogate father-son type of relationship together.
It's true, because if you look at him, like Frank's probably got no kids.
No.
His brother's got kids, he doesn't have any. Charlie's kind of like becoming near enough the closest thing to a kid he's ever had.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like adopted him, he's taking him under the wing and everything, and he's like showing him, when he shakes his hand on the plane, he goes, "This is the start of your education."
Yeah, I did like that. I like that bit.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, this is going to be a fun trip." And then he's like, when he's talking about women non-stop, and he's like, their hair, certain other things as well. And then he starts going, you know what? Then he starts laughing. As I guess you really like women. He goes, well, of course, more than anything else. He goes, a very distant second.
Yeah.
Go on, say it.
A Ferrari.
Yes. A very distant second is a Ferrari. And he goes, I knew a guy who was in my unit. He had a Ferrari. Every day I opened the door for him, and he never even let me, never take me for a ride. And he goes, "I'll forget him. He's dead and I'm blind." He says that.
I mean, and I like how Charlie actually remembers that bit when I think after the Colonel has had his enjoyed his night with a beautiful woman, he ends up sort of depressed, almost like he's gone through the adrenaline rush and now it's all kicked down. And Charlie just sort of thinks, decides, light bulb moment, why don't we go out somewhere, get a Ferrari,
go for a ride. He's like, what kind of ride? He's like,
and then remembers, I've got one idea.
Yeah, a Ferrari.
Yeah, and it's nice that sort of there's little details that tie into the bigger narrative.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, moving on. Yeah, that's true. I mean, moving on to Charlie himself, played by Chris O'Donnell. I don't think anybody but Chris O'Donnell could have played that role.
It's interesting because some of the people that were considered, one of the person was Brendan Fraser, who
maybe second,
honestly,
second,
I think he would have been. I think he would have worked out because I'm not sure he would have seemed a bit too old to play 17. Because I know he was a young man by that point, but I'm not sure because Chris O'Donnell seems very young and fresh-faced here, even though I think he was a bit older than 17, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
But you are correct. I think it's very hard to picture anyone else sort of playing Charlie the way that Chris O'Donnell does. That sort of gentle nature about it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you see the it's like when you see Chris O'Donnell, because he does carry that necessary of innocence towards him. When you see him doing the role, it's like, oh, he's somebody people can relate to. You look at Charlie, he is somebody people can relate to. He just wants to make something good for his life. He's very honest. If he's witnessed something, he's not going to sell somebody out. And so even though he's trying to take a bribe, someone's offering him a bribe, but he's refusing to take it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, if you don't take it, you don't tell. We're just going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
You're just here on a scholarship. You're nothing. You're just not like you pay anything. We're paying for you, so we can get rid of you anytime we want.
Yeah, and it's interesting that because in the end, you feel more and more sorry for Charlie because he's stuck in this massive predicament where on the one hand, he's stuck with this weekend with this old man who he's now discovered is actually suicidal.
Yeah.
And he's now left with that big, heavy weight on his shoulders of trying to potentially stop this man from doing something, from just killing himself.
Yeah. And
then he's got the other problem all the way back at school, where if he doesn't play his cards right, he could end up out of a very esteemed education.
Yeah.
So it makes you more and more empathise with this, essentially this poor kid who's kind of got way too much on his shoulders, and and as a result, even Frank points out, this car's feel a lot heavy, because you can tell there's something heavily weighing on Charlie's mind.
He says that he's like, "What are you doing? Are you dating the dean's daughter or something? Or are you?" Well, because I saw some guys doing something, but then the principal's offering me this. He's offering me a full scholarship into school if I give up somebody, and he's like, well, just give them up and get you through your scholarship. Because I can't do that. He's like testing Frank's kind of testing Charlie.
Yeah.
And he's like saying to him, are you as honest as you're making yourself out to be? And it turns out, all right, he is honest. If he's not going to sell somebody out, then turns out that this kid's honest.
And it's interesting as well, the argument with the idea of basically playing snitch a lot, because on one side, these friends that he has are just some idiot, rich kids who, in many ways, they don't deserve that kind of level of loyalty to them.
They don't.
But it's not really about that. It's not really about them. I think it's more or less about the principle of it, rather than just sort of selling out a bunch of people for your own, what will be at the end of the day, kind of for your own self-gain.
Yeah. because
the dean says basically bribes with, we can get you into, basically pop you into Harvard if you do this, basically a tattletale. And it's an interesting moral conundrum they present there, the way it's presented.
He's got a lot of morals to him, Charlie.
Listen.
And even that age, he's 17 and he's got morals. That says enough about a person.
I know, because I think what's quite impressive is being 17 like that and showing that kind of strength of integrity. Yeah. Despite being gentle-natured, despite everything, he still has that kind of iron will to think, no, I've got my moral compass. I know where it stands, and I'm going to follow through with it.
Indeed, and indeed he does that anyway. He like, you know, he's refusing to go along no matter how many threats are being thrown at him.
Yeah.
But he's not willing to sell somebody out. And Frank kind of picks that up down the line.
Exactly.
Because, you know, he's a good soldier, this kid here and everything. Even when he's like saluting him, he's like, what was that? Do it properly like this, shot to the hairline down and everything. It's like the next day when he's even offering to buy him have a suit made for him, which is quite good to go back. That one of the best scenes in that whole movie was where he goes to visit his older brother.
Yes.
And then he goes, he knocks on the door and it's the nephew and he goes, yeah, who is this? Sorry, that's my Pacino voice impression. And he goes, I'm Randy. He goes, you knew? I'm your nephew. Oh. And he walks inside. He goes, where's that miserable father of yours? No, don't call him. Let's give his fat heart an attack. He's banging on. He's like, Willie! Oh, Willie! Like that, which is quite hilarious. So everyone in the house is just shocked to hear him. Like, what's he doing here? And he hasn't. They've probably not heard or seen him or called him in so many years. And all of a sudden, here he is. Yeah. And he's like, where's that line he always says? Where's the booze flowing like mud around here? that was a good line. Every time you see him, there's a good line in it when the Waldorf Astoria, and he goes, read me what's on the shelf, like the small little drinks. And he goes, oh, there's Jim Beam, early times. He goes, clear it out, and I want it wall to wall with John Daniels. Don't you mean Jack Daniels? He may be Jack to you, but you've known him as long as I have.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, it's just so much of the film is some absolutely cracking one-liners from just Frank himself. Just so much of the screen. It's a testament to the ability of how they managed to make a script that's 2.5 hours long, and yet there's so many brilliant one-liners.
Indeed, and that was the great thing about the writer as well and the director, Martin Brest. And Martin Brest was like an amazing director.
Oh yeah.
Too bad he made one terrible movie. Thank God he wasn't Setting Up a Woman or the original Beverly Hills Cop or even Midnight Run with Robert De Niro. You got to watch that one. It's a great movie. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Oh, it's hilarious. And he just made this one bad movie because of the bad publicity. It forced him into early retirement from the business.
Yeah, unfortunately, they did make Gigli, which I think 2003 or 2004.
To tell you the truth, it's one of those movies that I couldn't even watch. No matter how much of a big fan of Ben Affleck I am, I could not watch that one movie.
No, apparently it's pretty bad. People said it's insulting. It's really poor. I mean, one of the ridiculous plot points is apparently Jennifer Lopez, she plays a lesbian, but then she turns straight for Ben Affleck, and
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's also this whole sort of gangster sort of plot going on around the whole thing.
To tell you the truth, even if they say it in real life, that this is going to shock everyone. I'm going to get a look at this dude right here, and they said that anytime Kevin Smith or Matt Damon say, anytime Ben Affleck hears the name of that movie, he shivers. See, you got the look at it. Now you remember Riley reactions when Aidan was here. Now you have the Lucas looks. We'll call it that way, or we'll call it the Frazer frustration. We'll call it that. The frightening of Frazer. We'll call it something like that. Hence, like Dr. Fraser Crane over here. What we. Okay, we'll call it the Lucas looks then anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
the producers on the background are saying no. That one's good, that one's awful, that one's, do not bother using that one. But I appreciate your honesty, everybody. And I got another thumbs up.
But yeah, I totally understand why Ben would shiver at any such mention of that, because it is, I think Wikipedia, they have an article for a list of what's considered the worst films ever. Gigli is actually put in there on the, when you're film is put on a Wikipedia page of worst films ever, you've screwed up something rotten.
Indeed, and you don't need to clarify it any further.
Yeah, but it is sort of sad though that Martin Brest, it's sort of run him out of the industry of just how bad it turned out. But I think you should not, just because you made one bad apple, does not mean make the whole batch of it bad, because this is still at the end of the day, it's still the guy that said Woman, Midnight Run, first Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah. If I were any studio of any sort of sense, I think, well, okay, it was absolutely awful, but these happen, these blips do happen. Yeah. So it's why I think he's quite an old chap now. I think he's at least in his 70s.
Yeah,
but,
he is.
I think unfortunately it might be too late to ever see him sort of do any sort of comeback. I think at this point he is just sort of
he would, yeah,
secluded himself.
No, he would definitely do that anyway. But like, yeah, if you've excluded yourself from the business, then you're thinking, all right, I've enjoyed retirement now, made some money.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Sometimes not everyone does it. I mean, Clint Eastwood, he's still making films.
He's a beast,
Richard Donner, he was making films right up to the day he passed away tragically.
Yeah, he did.
You know, so it's unfortunately great filmmakers. They're not always going to keep on making films right to the day they die. Sometimes they will just say, "No, I'm done. I'm going to have my retirement. I'm going to enjoy my fun, and I don't know, go fishing somewhere off the coast of the Bahamas or something."
probably would be, yeah. And so, what was your favorite scene in the whole movie?
Oh God, it's another problem as well, because it's 2.5 hours long, and because there's so many good one-liners across from. It's hard to really nail down a scene. I mean, one of the standouts probably is when Charlie goes in and confronts the Colonel when he's about to commit suicide in his sort of big military dress uniform, and he finally sort of confronts him, and even sort of grows a bit more of an extra sort of
spine.
A bit of spine. He grows a bit more confidence.
Yeah.
And even rather really ballsy of him, even sort of calling him out and saying, "Oh, let's go together then." Yeah. Just basically asking him to basically a murder-suicide sort of scenario.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's like, because he says to him in it, "I want some cigars." I'll go downstairs and go, "No, go to this street, 2 corners away, and get them from there." But then it's funny when Charlie's walking out the hotel.
Down the lobby.
Like, why is he sending me so far away? And it hits him and is like, he's going to do something stupid if I'm not there. So he runs back upstairs to have a look at him. And then he's getting ready to do what he's about to do.
Yeah.
But then he one of the scenes is like when Charlie kind of breaks through him.
Yes.
When he goes to him, Frank's like holding the gun to his head, and he's like, "I'll blow your head off." He goes, "Go on, do it then, do it. Go on, you miserable blind mother."
Yeah.
He says that. And then he's like saying, "All right, my life might be over as well then, because I'm going to get kicked out of school. All right, then I won't have anything to live for. Go on, go for it." And then when he kind of breaks into him, he's like, you dance the tango and drive the Ferrari better than anyone I've ever seen. And he goes, "All right." He puts the gun down. He goes, "All right, where do I go from here?" He goes, "Well, you say you tango up, you tango on." I mean, that scene he does with the tango. I mean, I'm not much of a dance enthusiast myself as much as Tal, perhaps maybe Aiden, but when Pacino's doing the dance steps in that movie, it's just amazing.
I know, and he's doing it while pretending to be blind, which just adds more to it. I think he rehearsed that for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And as for I think they only did film for about 3 hours or something at the end.
Indeed,
and for a scene that's so brief.
Yeah, and it's like they do that with most actors who prepare to do a certain scene, but they only use 20 seconds of that scene. It's like, so I spent months and months preparing for this, just for those 20 seconds.
Exactly. So when people always wonder, "Oh, how do these films cost millions and billions of dollars?" Well, you don't know how much preparation goes into certain scenes.
It's like Pacino, you can tell himself that he went off and learned how a blind person would act to things, how they would dress, how they have certain things laying around, to make sure, oh, this is here, that's there, this is there, read the braille. It's like, I think in a way even Ben Affleck did that when he was trained to be Daredevil.
I think he did actually.
He did, he went to a consultant. People are asking this consultant himself that this was a blind consultant, being like, how is it possible for him to avoid punches? And apparently the guy said that we could feel the wind getting faster as it's coming to your face. So if the wind's coming faster, you have time to move out of the way of that punch coming to your face.
Yes, mind you, you would have to have some reflexes of a housefly to actually, feel the movement of the air and get out of the way in time between. So you'd have to, so you would have to build up the reflexes as well as sort of notice that. But yeah, it is possible.
It is.
But But Pacino did actually sort of properly prepare himself. He did actually go to. I think particularly he focused on speaking to people who had lost their sight.
Yeah.
And understanding the trauma, the depression that goes with it, of people having to, and then sort of the acceptance of having to go on with life whilst having to be blind. Having lost their sight. So I think he particularly focused on that type, because I know some people can just be born blind, obviously.
Yeah, because if you look at Slade in that movie, they tell him, and that was an interesting story. I mean, the scene where he's at the dinner table, and he's like, the nephew's being really offensive, and he's like, "You thought about getting a Braille watch? Stevie Wonder has a Braille watch. Do you mock on him as well. He goes, I was gonna leave, but I'm not leaving now. And he's like, oh, do you want to know? Yeah, the Charlie's actually, just take it easy. It's just he goes, well, you want me to lay off him because he's blind. And he goes, my friend's name is Charles. He doesn't like to be called Chucky. Hooah, hooah, and everything. And then he's like telling him the story. He's insulting the man right there. But I like the fact that Slade's brother, W.R. Slade, what they call him.
Yeah.
He's like saying to the son, shut your mouth. Watch what you're saying to you. And he's like, that's enough. The whole family's saying, that's enough, don't say it. And he's, oh, this is what happened. He was teaching hand-to-hand combat at this fort or somewhere. Fort Benning, yeah. And then he's like saying, oh, he's like doing this. He drank like 4 screwdrivers, but the other guy only had 1 drink. And then he starts juggling hand grenades, and he starts pulling the pins out, and then he starts like, then it jumps in. One grenade got away, it blew up, and all Frank lost was his eyesight.
Yeah. And it's quite impactful as well when you see the way Pacino has Frank react to as he sort of goes in the story. So more and more distant, saying is who are just sort of
yeah.
And he's sort of becoming sort of I know he's blind, but he's staring into space. Even though he's blind, you can tell he's sort of remembering it and sort of having to sort of relive
those flashbacks again. What
yeah,
happened to him,
and you can tell he's sort of going through that moment in his head, probably with the regrets, probably all the depression and misery that came afterwards.
Indeed, it did, because that was going to happen to him anyway. That he was going to get depressed and become miserable of what had happened to him at that moment in time. And what was also happened, when the guy's always calling him Chucky, and then he just found the excuse he needed to like put a bit of hurt on him.
Yeah.
You could tell that as soon as he said the word Chucky, he's like, there's my cue. He grabs him and slams him to the door, and he's like choking, like putting like a tiger claw.
Describe sort of a ranger chokehold.
A ranger chokehold, yeah, kind of like ranger, like a kung fu type grip around the guy's neck. And he's like, any bit more pressure, I'm gonna crack your windpipe and everything. And then when he says goodbye to his brother, and then like one great character I thought was in this movie, Manny, the limo driver.
Yes.
I liked him. He was so cool. And he was like, this guy's a hero and everything. He's so nice to both of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll drive you back home, and they miss the plane. He politely just drives them back to the city.
Yeah.
And he gives them that massive tip.
Exactly. I mean, I was actually, it brought me to realise as well, a lot of times in films, I don't know, it's just sort of coincidence, but all the time limo drivers seem to be really, really nice guys in a lot of the films.
Indeed, yeah.
I don't know why, if that's just a coincidence, but it seems to be the case.
Alfred's one of them.
Yeah, Alfred's one of them
Alfred's
as well.
one of them. Manny was another one. I'm trying to think who was.
There are smaller ones where it's just like, one scene roles, but even those cases, limo drivers have a habit of being very nice guys.
Oh, indeed,
in films. I don't know why, but it seems to be, maybe it's just because film executives have had really nice experiences with them.
They probably meet them driving, and they just said, do you want a job working on a movie set? Because what do you have to just play a limo driver? It will pay you 5 times much more than what you're earning here. Right? What time do you want me on set? They probably just say that stuff, innit?
Yeah.
I mean, coming from an actor's background, sometimes when my agent would ring me up, he goes, do you want to go to this city for an audition? Do you want to go to this city to do work for a few hours? You get paid this much. Right, what time do I need to be on set? That's the first thing everybody says. What time? If you want that exposure, that's the first thing you say. What time do I need to be on set?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's always sort of like the first thing you do. Don't compromise anything. Just simply go, what time do you need me?
That's it. That's all you gotta say. What time do you need me? What time is it?
Yeah.
And that's it. Job done.
Yeah, what time do you need me? I'm perfectly flexible.
I'll make myself flexible.
3 in the morning, that's fine.
Indeed. All done. And okay, so that was one scene. And what was another great scene, without a shadow of a doubt, was the quote courthouse.
Oh, the big finale.
The big finale at the end, where he's like saying to him, because Frank's kind of picking it up at the way, because they drop him off at school to get ready for this quote thing.
Saying goodbye.
Nobody's there to help Charlie, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like the same thing happens all over again. I just realised, if you look at Charlie walking out of the lobby, you're realising Frank's going to go do something stupid. Frank's kind of realised on the way out, something stupid is going to happen to Charlie if I'm not there. If he saved my life, I should go back and save him. So he goes back in and he's like, what are you doing here? He's like, you got room for me up there? He goes, yeah. He pulls it in. The principal's like, who is this man? He goes, this is Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade of the United States Army, retired of course. His parents couldn't make it, he's making their names up, and he goes, they're close friends of mine, but they couldn't make it from Oregon. So they asked me to work here. Is this a courtroom? And he's like, happy to have you with us, Colonel. And then this is like, I'm going to recommend you get expelled. He goes, I'm not going to punish them three. I'm not going to punish him. I'm going to punish you. I don't know. Maybe the principal's taken a bribe from somebody. Let my kid stay on.
Yeah.
Maybe he likes them a little bit more, but because Charlie's refusing the bribe, he's kind of taken the bribe. Frank's about to say to him, everybody, this is what this guy has been doing.
Yeah.
But he's not a sellout, which is quite good. I mean, the scene when I'll try and do the impression and he goes, you're a cover-up artist in my life, but not a snitch. Excuse me, no, I don't think I will. Now this is such a crock of crap. And he's like, he doesn't need to be labelled still worthy of being a bad man. What is that? Boys, fall on your classmates. Anything lower than that, we're going to burn you up the stake. Well, gentlemen, when it hits the fan, some guys run for the hill, and here's Charlie facing the fire, and there's George hiding in Big Daddy's pockets. And what are you doing? You're going to reward George and destroy Charlie. You finished, Mr. Slade? No, I'm just getting warmed up. When he says that, and then he's like, "You're out of order." He goes, "I'll show you who's out of order." He goes, I'm too old, I'm too tired, I'm too effing blind. If I was the man I was 10 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place." And I love that. And when he slams it, he's like, you can tell Charlie's reaction was real.
Yeah.
I think Pacino, without a shadow of a doubt, improvised that scene.
Most likely, they do that sort of
that,
emphasis on things, and and I suspect it most likely that bit was probably all him.
Indeed, yeah, and it's like Jim Carrey in a way. He improvises everything he does.
Oh yeah, you have no idea what the hell's going to happen next with him. Honestly, yeah.
I mean, the guy can pick his leg up and use it like a guitar sometimes, which is just next level stuff. I tell you that. How do you do that? And then it's like he did it on what was that show called? The interview show, Inside the Actor Studio.
Yes.
Then the guy James Lipton, he was absolute legend of an interviewer. He just picked up his leg. He goes, "Is it true you can pick up your leg and kind of use it a guitar?" And he goes, "All right, hang on, I'll do it." He just stood up there in front of the crowd and started playing his leg like a guitar and everything. And then he goes, and then he just sat back down like there was nothing going on.
Yeah, absolute titan of just any sort of, when it comes to comedy, ad-libbing, just unbelievable. His comedic instinct for that was just...
It's just legend.
Unbelievable.
Like in Ace Ventura, when he goes, and that guy goes, "Shall we? Shall we?" Like that. Everything's like, when he's singing "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang," which is hilarious. Like,
it's been too long.
You Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, we love you. Well, Chitty. He's like, sometimes when he's like driving the car and he's not going at high speeds, and he's like, like that and everything. I couldn't help when I was driving. I'd be like that driving sometimes, or like when he's driving, he's like that, going over a bumpy road, and it's like the instructors, well, not instructor, I got to do it on that day. My instructor, sorry, not the examiner. That would have been an instant fail. Yeah. Fail for making. Really, why'd you fail? You were making me laugh all the way. That would have been hilarious.
I mean, it's been too long since I've seen Ace Ventura.
Oh, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do the Ace Ventura movies without a shadow of a doubt. But hopefully Aidan, when he takes a bit of a break, can come and join us as well.
Yeah,
we'll have a good laugh. The three of us will.
Yeah, one of the great 90s comedy classics.
Yeah. Especially, I love the tagline. He's the best there is. In fact, he's the only one there is. And what was also funny what was great about that scene, going back to Scent of Woman, is that scene in the courthouse where Frank is standing up to him saying, he's honest, this is what you need for it, this is a splendid soldier, he'll make you proud, give him the chance. And then all the teachers say, well, just let him go then, he's honest, he doesn't want to rat on somebody, that's a good thing. But he's excused and he's like, hoo-ah! And then the whole school just stands up, starts cheering for him and everything, which was quite legend.
Interesting little fun fact about that school they filmed it, at least for the bit with the judiciary hearing.
Yeah.
That was actually filmed in one of the oldest all-female prep schools in America. Yeah, but it's supposed to be an all-boys school, but it's actually being filmed, at least the bit with the judicial hearing.
Yeah.
That's being filmed. The place they filmed it is actually an all-girls prep school. And I think it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, in America. So it just was a fun little bit of irony there that they filmed it in an all-girls school.
It was, without a shadow of a doubt.
But it is But I think because I remember seeing that clip from that sort of courtroom scene,
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, this is amazing. You know, I have to see the film that comes with this, and I was waiting for it, and it's just pure catharsis at the end of letting Frank just sort of let rip on this kind of stuffy institution that's kind of just sort of unfairly sending this this poor kid to the flames.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to rat somebody out.
Yeah, but just showing signs of integrity,
Yeah.
and moral fortitude. But because of that, apparently they were going to toss you to the wayside, toss you out of here because you're not going to dance to our jig.
Yeah, do what we say, otherwise you're out of it. Like, okay, then I'll go, but I'm not ratting somebody out to make a future for myself.
Yeah.
Because then it's not going to be an honest future. Because in a way you've kind of wrecked somebody else's, or in this case, in Charlie's case, it would have been 3 people's futures. Call it 4. They're tagging George along with it as well.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. He made sure that, I'm not going to rat somebody out to build my life.
Yeah, and in the end they do sort of give a bit of punishment to the actual sort of conspirators as well. They sort of get a bit of detention, some sort of punishment.
Probation, yes, probation.
They have probation, so they do, because at the end of the day, they probably, those likely they had a fairly good idea of who it was anyway, but they just sort of wanted to get the official word of who it was. But yeah, it's just so brilliant that the whole speech with Frank, it's brilliant. How it feels like the proper culmination of the relationship that he builds with Charlie throughout the weekend, and it finally comes to him very selflessly going up onto the stage there and just basically saying, defending Charlie to the hilt, and it's quite touching, that sort of the connection they build. It comes to that sort of level.
It was a great relationship them two had. I would say in a way it's kind of, would you say it's kind of like the relationship between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi?
It is in a way,
but it's more of a military-based one that's more karate.
Yeah, because Miyagi technically is a former soldier himself, and is also suffering, as in one of the rather touching scenes where he's sort of a bit drunk and talking about his wife and child that he lost.
That scene actually helped him get nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yes. Yeah, and absolutely fair play to him. I don't know who beat him, but it would have to be one hell of a good performance to try and top that.
Indeed,
Like a really, really good one to try and top that. Because
indeed, I agree.
Him as Mr. Miyagi was just easily Oscar worthy, easily. But in the same way, he and Slade, they are so similar because they are veterans, they are from the army, and they are sort of haunted by their bits of past. Whereas in this case, rather than losing family, he lost his sight. But the thing is, Miyagi has a much more sort of stronger will, because he doesn't. There's no point in the Karate Kid, for example, where he plans on taking his life. There's no scene where he thinks of it. Whereas Frank, he has reached this depressive slump and it's because he's also on his own now. Whereas Miyagi, he found a student in Daniel to teach and sort of give him a bit of purpose.
Yeah, same thing with it's true. Like Slade's kind of like the same thing as well, where he's like teaching this kid something. Like you kind of look like you've been locked up all your life, like sheltered. Now you're out in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And he gives Charlie the sort of sort of an education, in some ways. And as well as that sort of teaching the ropes as well of how to sort of charm the women as well with that tango scene. As well. Actually, fun fact that the woman they meet, Donna,
Gabrielle Anwar,
yes, she. Because I thought I recognise this from somewhere, and I know why, because she and Chris O'Donnell, they appeared in that Disney's Three Musketeers film the following year after Scent of a Woman in 1993. That was the one with Charlie Sheen, Oliver Platt, and Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if she was in the movie.
She plays the Queen. She plays Queen Anne in that one.
Oh right, because I know you had Rebecca De Mora.
I think that's correct. Yeah. But she played Queen Anne, the wife of the French king, in that one, and because that's real. I thought it's one of those moments where you've seen an actor and think, I know I've seen you somewhere. I know I have.
Yeah.
And then you realise, there we go. And it's just sort of coincidental as well that she appeared as well with Chris O'Donnell as well.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like the scene where Frank's kind of like sensing she's there. I'm getting some kind of soap and water feeling over there, Charlie. She sounds lonely. Let's go keep her company. And he's like, yeah, she likes you, Charlie. He goes, do you tango? I said, well, I want to. Oh, you tango up, you tango on. And he's like, show me where it is and everything. And he's like, he busts some moves out for a blind guy. He's got some sick moves.
I know. I mean, it's you know, and it's just amazing how one of the things as well, he uses the ability to have, he's able to recognise different perfumes.
Yes.
Sort of help sort of charm them.
Yeah.
And you know, I suspect there's probably people in real life.
That's probably what they said in it, scent of a woman.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's where he's like leading, the scent kind of leads him to that woman, that one, and that one. And then at the end, he's talking to the one of the teachers at school, and he's like, "Oh, you're wearing this perfume?" He goes, "Yeah, how'd you guess?" He goes, "We should get together sometime, talk politics." And she goes, "Yeah, I love that." She's charmed away by him as well, like him standing up to that massive courtroom, and like she's just found immediately.
Bowled over by him.
Yeah, she's like, wow, this guy's got more guts than most people here.
Yeah.
And he's like, she just runs after him. He's like, I've got to get hold of him. This guy.
But also it gives Frank a bit of hope that there is sort of more of a future for him as well, and his love life even about sort of gives him a lifeline that his life cannot just, it doesn't have to be just lonely sitting in that little hut on his own all the time. Actually, fun little fact as well. The actress who plays that professor at the end, that's Frances Conroy, who played Joker's mother.
Yes, she did.
In the Joker film.
She did.
Yeah.
And then she's worked with De Niro and Pacino.
Yeah, so interesting fun little fact there as well about that. Actually, there were quite a few faces here and there that I recognised. The actor that played I can't remember his name, that played the Dean.
James Redhorn?
Might be the one,
yeah. I remember
he
him.
appeared as one of sort of the conspirators in that Michael Douglas film, The Game, is one of them.
And he was also in Meet the Parents. He's playing the groom's dad.
Yes.
And like every few seconds, fucker. He was like the one saying that non-stop all the time. I wasn't using swear words, everybody. That's just his name.
Yes.
If not
F-O-C-K-E-R.
Fucker. Go on, you gotta say it.
Fucker, yeah. Yeah, so it is. I think it is an actual German name because I think they have the F-O-K-K-E-R spelling.
Yeah, I think so as well. But they said they had to do some research online to find out if somebody actually exists with that name.
Gaylord Fokker.
Yeah, and they said that they apparently found 6 people with that name.
Yes, they did. They
said,
found
right,
7.
fine, we're going to have to. That means the name exists. We can use the name.
They found several people called Gaylord Fokker. I mean,
yeah,
that's wow. They must have been genuinely surprised. They must have thought. I'm not going to lie. I really thought we were going to be really struggle with that.
Yeah, indeed, but they pull it off. But one thing I also like about the end of Scent of a Woman, it kind of gave you a little bit of a hint. Would they have made a sequel to it, where it was like when he goes to Manny, he gives him that massive tip. He goes, "This is too much." He goes, "Well, you've earned it. So next time I see you, you can drive me and Charlie both ways. You could drive us there, you could drive us back." He goes, "It'd be my pleasure, Colonel. But I'll give you a rate." He goes, "I'll see your rate and raise you." And he's like that. And he's like, I'll take it from here. I'll walk back over there and everything." And he's kind of made peace with his niece and his nephew's kids as well, like their grandkids.
Yeah.
But quote, sort of his grandkids.
Sort of.
He's kind
surrogate in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of made peace with them, and Charlie's standing there looking at, there is hope for him and everything. And then he gets back in the car and he drives him back to the dorm and everything like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a sweet little ending as well, because they could have ended it where he sort of meets that professor at the end there, and they sort of walk off afterwards.
Yeah.
And they could have ended up, but they don't. They sort of wait till he gets home, and it shows that he's got, he's even built, starting to build more of a bridge emotionally, even to these little, his great, I'm guessing his great niece and great nephew.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, and it shows again there's a bit more hope that he's going to be building a better life, and how Charlie's kind of positively affected him in a way,
And
not just with
he's affected him as well.
Yeah, exactly. Then so they walk out as sort of improved human beings, with a better, brighter view on things, with a brighter future.
Indeed, yeah, and they both do that. I mean, they both pulled off. I mean, like I said, nobody but Pacino could have played. I know I say this a lot about certain actors who've played certain roles, but it's true that once the actor has pulled off a heck of a great performance, you can't imagine anybody else playing that role like that actor.
Absolutely not, no. Because if you've imagined, let's go for an easy example, Robert De Niro, it would be a very different approach if he was cast as Frank Slade. It would be very different to what. He'd probably still do the thing, because he was also a method actor, so he'd probably always train about how to be blind, or I think it'd still be a very effective performance.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
But it would be so much different to such an extent, it would be almost feel like a different sort of character as well, that just happened to be called Frank Slade.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Pacino, he, as they say, he made it his own.
Oh, he did. He did.
He made sure he stamped it with his own authority, and as a result, it's one of his most iconic characters that he's ever done.
Indeed.
You know, it's and he's absolutely brilliant in it. I think some people have said he might seem a bit over the top in it. I don't think so, because he's playing a very broad character, you know, and because of that, he brings a sort of bombastic sort of power to Frank, which I think actually is necessary to make it, you know, sort of properly convey what he's going through, convey the sort of type of character he is. You know, being loud, sort of, you know, because he's blind, of course he's going to be a bit loud.
Stay out of my room. It's the quietest you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's the most private you're going to get. And everything when he says that, like when he's like getting the suit ready, he's like, I don't want to disturb you. You're not disturbing. He just stays out of the room. But when he's like putting the gun together, he's like, you got to do a 45 and 25 and everything like that. He's loading the gun up so quick. But still, it was legend how he did it. And again, nobody but him could have pulled off that role.
No, because he adds that type of, that sort of oozing charisma that Pacino would just sort of make. It's like a Pacino branded charisma that, you know, if he could bottle it and sell it, he'd make a killing off of it.
Of course he would, yeah. The scent of a woman, scent of a Pacino.
Scent of a Pacino, that's
the scent of Pacino, that's it, yeah, job done.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a pretty good aftershave line. Most people end up buying it as well, to tell you the truth.
Actually, you know what? It might be to be honest, pitch that as a business idea to Pacino. I've got a great idea.
Hooah! Congratulations.
You can have the different versions, you know, Scent of Pacino, Hooah!
The Hooah collection. And then you can have it from The Godfather, and you can have it from, there was another great movie he did once a long time ago. Because he was actually considered to be in Goodfellas, but he turned it down.
I'm not surprised.
Because he was afraid of becoming typecasted. So.
Yeah.
But then he ended up working with them on The Irishman.
He did actually.
I still need to see that movie. Everyone's saying just watch it, it's amazing, but it's like 4 hours long.
I think the only problem people said is the length. It's a big punishing length, but also apparently there's a scene where De Niro, he's de-aged, playing a younger version of his character, and he tries beating up a guy in the street, and it's just a bit of a sad thing because De Niro, he's nearing 80, and he's very clearly moving about like a much older man, but he's supposed to be like a really young, much younger man trying to beat up this guy. And it's sort of, people said it looks a bit awkward.
Oh yeah.
Shall we say?
Indeed, yeah, indeed.
Because you're trying to get to imagine a guy who's in his mid to late 70s, pretending that he's like in his 40s or so.
Yeah.
But he's trying to beat this guy up, but he's clearly in his 70s, so he doesn't move quite the same way as he used to.
No, that's true. It's true. If you can't do it off screen, it's next to impossible bringing it on screen.
Yeah.
Which will happen, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and overall, what would you rate Scent of a Woman on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd probably give it like a 9. The only thing to drag it down perhaps is that it is perhaps a little bit long on some bits, but some of it's really good. One of the underrated bits to say is Thomas Newman, that did the musical score, it's really got this intelligent melody to it, which I really quite liked. There's not a lot of music to it because the scenes don't really require it in a lot of them, but the music's really good. But yeah, solid 9 out of 10 for me, I'd say.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 as well, because it's one of the most brilliant performances overall of Pacino. And you know, for nowadays, whenever you watch a Pacino movie, you know one thing, it's going to turn out well.
Yes.
Regardless of anything, because it's Al Pacino, he's one of the greatest actors who's ever graced our scenes.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, and how many does he done? Not a lot. I mean, he did do that Jack and Jill from Adam Sandler. Where he played
to tell you this truth, I haven't not watched that fully, but people have said to me, don't bother watching.
No, apparently he plays himself, and he's the boyfriend of Jill, who is played by Adam Sandler in drag, essentially.
Right, so I'm going to have to.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I'll watch it, because I'm like some of a Pacino fan. There's a good movie of his you got to watch. It's called Two for the Money with him and Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, great movie. Okay, was that?
He's kind of like, I would say, near enough Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. He's kind of near enough that character in this movie.
Right, sort of slimy, sort of financial wizard.
Indeed,
okay. Right, I'll keep that in mind then. Is that from quite a while back, that film then? Was that
early, I think mid-2000s, I would say.
Oh, right, okay.
But still,
so when McConaughey was doing a break between all the rom-coms he was doing at the time.
Couldn't he have done anything better?
God, he was wasting his career in so many of those films back then, because it wasn't until he did stuff like Dallas Buyers Club people realised, oh wow, you mean he really can? He's a really, really good actor, okay.
Indeed, no, he did do that. Well, that's all the time we had for the podcast today. Frazer, again, we'd like to say welcome to you, and
Thank you.
thanks for joining us on the team.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you. Welcome aboard. And we will be returning back with more podcasts. Next podcast we'll be reviewing the third Lethal Weapon movie, and then we're going to might do the Joe Pesci classic, My Cousin Vinny, absolutely hilarious. And we'll go, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have finished off the Lethal Weapon saga, and we'll start a new saga for the new year as well. And we'll mention a few Christmas movies. Hopefully, we'll have Aidan back as well to mention some of his favourite Christmas movies too. So this is Addy.
And Frazer.
So we'd like to say thank you again. Don't forget to click subscribe, turn on notifications as well. I will see you in the next podcast. And remember, the AAT'S rocked.
Yeah. And rolled.
And rolled, yeah. Okay, rocked and rolled. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it. Don't forget, we'll be there next week, everybody. Thank you again. Aidan, can you have a look at that?